Thank you all for letting us, first of all, partner with you. You guys are the epitome of a great partner, and we're just blessed to be able to work with your association over the years. John, Jody, Barbara, Darin, Lindsay, Ashley, thank you all so much for having us here. This partnership has lasted 3 decades, and it's because people are committed to improving. You guys make us better, and hopefully we facilitate you guys bringing more value and more service to your members. So it's been a wonderful ride over the years. Personally, you know, in business you have tons of relationships over the years. More of my career is likely behind me than in front of me, and when I get on that rocking chair on the porch, people talk about the relationships. This is the one. I mean, we make each other better. We challenge each other. We're just very blessed to be part of your programs, and again, thank you all very much for that. Just walking back a little bit, we started doing this work in the 90s, and it took us 3 years to get to 50 herds, and we had a pretty big celebration once we got finally 50 herds onto the system. It was neat to see we're nearly at $4 million of tag revenue for the association. So again, a lot of credit to what you guys do and how you guys have really worked in bringing value through identification to your members. Historically, we're a pretty simple company, and we're going to talk a little bit about animal ID, but also our pivot as an organization to animal intelligence. We touch a lot of things that you do, and it's for us, we're a fairly simple group, but we are facilitating technology. And what I mean by that is, you know, you listen to Jason's talk about how important genomics have become. We have a facilitating technology in the tissue sampling that helps that get done efficiently at the field level. Listening to Chip, I mean, ID traceability is at our core. It's a big part of what he's able to deliver. So we evolve with you, with your partners, and hopefully we can continue that trajectory of bringing more value to the table. Part of our evolution is there was a little bit of a name change, probably not anything anybody was really cognizant of. The Allflex group was renamed into the Untitled group here this last year, and it really reflected the changing dynamic of us not only being a leader in the livestock identification field, but also we've pivoted a little bit into some other species. And I wanted to give you just a little bit of a flavor on that as we go forward. Our whole goal is to connect animals and people for a smarter future. And as we talk a little bit about our company and what we're able to bring to the table, hopefully you'll see that we're starting to achieve that in some of the things we've done. We always want to reimagine animal care, doing everything we can to make best of our resources, best of the interaction between humans and animals. We have innovation centers in 4 places around the world: US, the UK, Israel, and France. That's where our core research is done. We have a research team of over 500 people globally, 1,900 people total worldwide is our employee population. But in those centers, we're really working to improve and enhance everything we do day in and day out. 3 main pillars of our business, and again, really what you guys know us for is the Allflex business, focused on livestock identification, and a couple of years ago we pivoted into livestock monitoring as well. But we're also into pet care. You look at the things we do with RFID, with the electronic ID tags for the cattle. That same technology is actually used for microchips for dogs and cats. So if you have a dog or cat that gets microchipped and part of the Home Again recovery system, that's likely going to be one of our microchips. We use those same microchips in the fish world, both from a conservation. A lot of work is being done in the Columbia River Basin here up north, but also in production aquaculture is becoming more and more of an active topic. And again, we're very, very engaged in that as well. But let's talk a little bit about Allflex. That's what we do in this space, and we want to make sure that we're doing the best we can for you as we go forward. Every year, 500 million animals are identified with Allflex identification devices. And that's something we take very seriously. Literally anywhere there's production agriculture, livestock agriculture, we have a footprint. We have facilities in over 40 countries around the world and partnerships in everywhere where they produce cattle. So for us, this is our focus. This is our main reason for being and engaging with the leaders in the industry, literally across the world. Legacy business is pretty clear, and again, this is what you guys know us for, the visual IDs and the electronic IDs. We have been doing that for over 60 years, and it is still the core of our business. Probably 70% of our revenue still comes from this part of our business. So we talk about the people and the resources. This is where our focus is, and this is where our focus will remain. Over the last couple of years, and probably been an 8 or 10 year process, we've started getting into the genomic testing world. And some of that, ironically, wasn't really focused initially on genomics. It was disease eradication. We had a situation where we have national ID mandatory in a lot of countries, particularly in Europe. In Switzerland, they had a big BVD problem, and so the eradication process incorporated a tissue sampling as part of the animal identification process. And then they worked through, over the course of 4 or 5 years, they eradicated BVD in Switzerland. That program's moved into Italy, Germany, Ireland, a few other places, and ultimately became the same tool that we started using for genomic testing. And for us, it's a pretty interesting story. This goes back almost a decade. Came to Brattleboro and worked with the team there, and I'd just been to France, which is one of our innovation centers for ID, and seen this unique tag that took a big chunk of flesh out of the animal's ear, and I was really confused as to what that was for. And they said, well, it's a part of a disease eradication program. Do you have a big BVD problem in the United States? So I'm like, I'm not sure, but 2 weeks later I was at Holstein's office, put that on the table, and hey, do we have a big BVD problem? And a little, not so much. And then the question came from the group, do you guys have a sense, Allflex have a sense as to whether or not that tissue sample can be used for genomic testing, which I knew zero about. And so told them, look, I'm really not sure. I don't know how to learn and find out how to do this. Holstein was going down to work with USDA in Beltsville, Maryland. They invited me very graciously to be part of their group to go down there. Got to work with the group in Beltsville, found out that we could optimize or do a little bit of modification to our product and create the TSU product that we worked with Jason and his team to refine and make sure that we got the lab processes right. But the evolution and the partnership of taking something that was used for a different purpose in a different part of our world, sitting down with the innovative people at Holstein in Brattleboro, and then creating some opportunities and working with some great lab partners, brought that TSU product to the market. So we talk about partners pushing each other. This is one of the great examples for us, and we're indebted to the Holstein group for giving us that opportunity. In the last 3 years, we took another pivot. The logical extension of ID for us was looking at how we can help identify different traits and identify different opportunities within a herd. With our monitoring business, and it was the acquisition of an Israeli company called SCR that put us in a situation where we're actually monitoring animals. So it's not just a simple identifying, collecting information, creating better records. It was now actually monitoring activity, rumination, and different attributes of the day-to-day function of the animal, and starting to give farmers a better view as to how they can optimally manage and treat their animals, know what the optimum breeding cycles are, early detection of illness. And as we continue to refine the algorithms on this side of our business, we're doing a lot to create wellness KPIs and really give producers great tools to make sure they're getting ahead of the issues on their farm, not just reacting and responding to them. For us, it's pretty simple. We've got animal identification, animal health, and animal intelligence all coming together in a format that gives us more of a concentric circle that we can bring all these things together and try to create value, identifying traceability, optimizing genetic potential, and ultimately helping manage the health of those animals to the best endpoint we possibly can. We had a bit of a change, and Jason, you can close your eyes for a minute. Allflex went through a little bit of another transition last year. We've been in the private equity world, and again, I don't need to bore you about our corporate structure, but we had an owner that basically was looking to sunset their engagement. It's a pretty normal part of the process. We were bought by Merck Animal Health. That was announced back in December. We will be joining the Merck family sometime this spring, probably April or May. For us, what we're ultimately trying to do there, we will stay an independent subsidiary under Merck. Our CEO will report up to their CEO. But ultimately, we want to come together and create the best biopharma and animal intelligence company in the world. And we know we've got some really good competition in that space. But we've been blessed to be able to collaborate on a lot of things too, and I certainly hope we can continue that going forward. But for us, you really shouldn't see any difference. It should be business as usual. I promise Jody I'm going to get Merck at the table for YDLI and try to make sure that they engage a little bit better within your group. But for us, it's an exciting landing spot. They're going to bring more resources. They're not as honestly concerned about the ID side of the business. I think they'll let us run pretty independently there. The monitoring side, that SCR side of our business, that's a key interest for them. They're very data-centric in the way they want to move to market, and I think they see a lot of opportunity there. So again, hopefully day-to-day you don't see a lot of change in the way we do business and the way we partner. And if you do, hopefully it's just getting better and better as it has over the last 30 years. For us, by identifying and collecting animal data, we create intelligence that improves accountability and ultimately makes for a better relationship between animals and the humans that share this planet. That's our goal, and that's what we try to do. Back to our world and what opportunities there are there between the Holstein Association and Allflex as we go into 2019 and beyond. Our business focuses on 7 major production plants that produce the identification devices that you and your members use. We have all of them fully accredited by ISO and different accreditation facilities. We monitor, we manage everything to very, very strict specifications. Our Dallas facility is the largest, we call it TPS, tag printing facility within the global group. We manage over 40,000 SKUs. So different combinations of size, color, markings that bring hopefully the ultimate flexibility to your members to manage their herd the way they want to. A lot of the countries that we serve offer one size, one color, and that's it. When we started working with Holstein, one of the key things and the key remits we had is choice is the absolute premium for our producers. They cannot try to put themselves into a box that makes it easy. So we have to have multiple different color options, multiple size, multiple marking, and then we evolved and we had EID options, and now we have tissue sampling options. So just for Holstein, there's nearly 8,000 or 9,000 different options, and we try to consolidate those and keep them as simple as we can and create better tools for ordering so people understand it. But again, we don't want to try to force producers to change for us. We will go out of our way to change for you and make sure we're bringing you the tools you need every single day. Together, we've actually done a lot of things to create efficiencies in that model. The data transfer things that we do with Holstein, some of those back office data sharing, which we can help populate your farm management system with data. All those things were Holstein pushing us to try to do more to simplify the life of producers and make sure you have the tools you need when you need them and in the format that you need them. Different products that we have, these are just a few examples of the different things we do, whether they're visual systems, RFID, or combinations of the two plus genomics. All of these go through very high accreditation process. There's an International Committee on Animal Recording, ICAR, that we submit every single different combination of tags to. We go through a rigorous testing process. We get audited on an annual basis to make sure that that quality and the actual product that's being used is as it's being represented and as it's being accredited by those organizations. That's something we take very serious. It's a commercial market here. It's a trust between partners. Other parts of the world, when we do business with the governments in Europe, because governments mandate ID and they buy all the ID, all these accreditations and all these ongoing tests are just critical to them. That's the only way that we have license to do business in those markets. So it's something we do every single day. We take it very serious. We want to make sure that we're delivering the best product time and time again for you and your members. If you look at the different markets, just to give you a little bit of scope, these are some of the official markets we deal with. The French market is 18 million tags a year. We've got New Zealand a few million, Australia 12 million, Canada just north another 10 million. We do over 1 million with you guys as well. I mean, it's a business that's very, very complex in the diversity, different environmental conditions, but the consistency is making sure that we spec the product right in the market, we deliver it, and it's always the same consistent product day in, day out, year in, year out. So let's talk about a little bit of an 800-pound gorilla, and that is tag retention. Tag retention is always a challenge. I've been around for 30 years, and we've always had discussions about tag retention. A tag on the ground has absolutely no value. We get that. And we work very hard to make sure we keep improving and evolving, because as much as things seem very consistent on the farm, they do change. We have different parts of our world that deal with different environmental conditions. For ultraviolet, which really affects the plastics. And if you go down to Australia, New Zealand, they've had this enlarging hole in their ozone layer that allows more ultraviolet light coming through. That's affected our tags in that market. We have microbial attacks, and that's something that we deal with in this market from time to time, where different microorganisms that attack plastic are evident on different farms, and it can be as unique as one farm in a specific area is having problems with a microbial attack. Next door, they have nothing. So it's a real challenge to keep managing that, but we do that. We work diligently with our partners to go on farm, to look at the samples that are failing and try to make those improvements that we need to ensure that we win your trust and win your business as we go forward. So we have work to do to improve, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight into some of the things we're doing. I kind of look at these slides for me, and again, ear tagging is a kind of a simple deal. And these are a little technical, but then I look at what Chip and Jason bring. They're so much more technical. I'm guessing my stuff is really simplistic compared to them. But we had problems with microbial attack in Australia about 5 years ago. And so what we've done is we've really looked at the core part of our system. That's the male tag, where there's been some problem with breaking and cracking of the tag, and then the tags ultimately fall out. And we've made some key changes, and the key changes, although they look very subtle, really provided a big change in the value of the product. This was our old small male, and I know these are hard to see, but there's a transition radius between the stem and the base of the tag, and there's also then the base of the tag itself. What we've done is we've moved to this new design that basically has beefed up that radius. So we're putting more material in this area, which causes a little bit of a stress point, where tags tend to bend and break over time. And also at the base, we've added more materials. So what that does, we basically now are looking at tags that were very flat at the base. And now they've got a little bit of a protrusion at the base. They've got a little bit more material in the radius. We've actually added roughly 40% more material in that transition from the base of the tag to the stem of the tag. So where you've seen, in some cases, a little bit of cracking or breaking that comes right around that stem, that's something that these improvements have been designed to eliminate. There's a new field of study within plastics manufacturing, and what you have to understand, or what we have to understand, is plastic starts as a solid. We heat it up to about 500 degrees. We inject it through a molding machine that keeps two metal plates together with about 350 to 400 tons of pressure. And in a 35 to 45 second cycle, that molten polyurethane goes into these cavities in the shape of a tag. And then there's a water jacket that has cooled water or glycol around that jacket that cools it down rapidly. And then the tag sets, it hardens, and then it comes out of the machine and we go do it again. This field of rheology basically is the flow of the plastic and the curing of the plastic that goes through a rapid heat up and cool down cycle. And one of the things we learned by bringing 3 engineers in to do this study for us over the last 5 years, these are basically views of the 2 tags. One is a temperature analysis, the heat that's been built up on these tags as the material flows, and the other is the density of the tag. And what we found was a real strong correlation there. So when we put this polyurethane in, we had areas here where they stayed very hot. And you see those heat spots are where we tend to see breakage over time. And when we have microbial attacks, those are areas that are susceptible to those microbial attacks. What our new design has done is allowed us to have more of a free flow of material. Materials, like anything else, it goes straight real well. When it curves, it creates turbulence, and then it doesn't cure as well as it had in the past. So with the new material shape and the new processes, we've got a much more even temperature flow. And so when the tag fully cures, when it's fully dry, if you will, we've got no more density holes, because we had density holes right in these areas so that the plastic wasn't as dense or tightly compacted. The molecules weren't as close together. And so you had places where microbes could get in, start eating the plastic, and start degrading the plastic over time. The new tags don't allow that. They're very even in the flow. They're very even in the way they set. And now we've got a much denser, much more uniform plastic throughout the tag. Again, it's probably really boring to hear this stuff, but for us it's pretty exciting because we've struggled to see in the last couple of years a little bit more discussion every one of the meetings we have with you guys about breakage. We take it ridiculously seriously. We are pests that we work with Jody and Darin and say, get us on farm, get us samples, because we want to do the analysis and understand what's going wrong. And as we've gotten that, we've been able to make these changes. This product now is the product that you're being provided. We started transitioning this last fall. We went through a large accreditation process, first in Australia, and then we got it accredited for that national program. We've produced about 46 million tags in Australia. The losses are nearly eliminated there. Here we brought that forward for USDA accreditation because when we talk about our 840 tags, the ones that are the official US government tags, we have to go to them to get accreditation to make a change like this. Fully accredited, fully tested. We continue to do long-term retention trials to make sure that they're going well. We've had some here in California for the last 2.5 years that are going brilliantly well. We think we've gotten this problem licked. Doesn't really change the fact that some of the things that are in the market are still going to have some of the challenges you've seen, and we'll continue to work with you guys to replace those. You know, it's really a carte blanche with the association that when those things pop up, we replace those. We know we are still a problem to you guys because you have to go out to the farm and replace it. It's a lot of work, but we want you to know what we've done to fix the problem. And this is something that we'll continue to work on. We always have different issues pop up. We tend to go through these dormant windows where there's really no problems at all, but then different microbials and different things start to show up on farms, and plastic has to adapt to that, and we have to adapt to that. A lot of times when we see retention issues, there are some things at the farm level and with the tools that we're providing that are just have to be continually reinforced with new farm staff members to make sure we're doing the absolute best at the farm level to get the best retention. Correct placement is always a key one. I mean, if you put those tags between those two little cartilage ribs in the ears, retention is always so much better. So try to remind your team to put it in the right place. If it's at the edge of the ear, if it's going to be, you know, at a point where it can get caught up on something, it can rip, it can tear, it can pull out of the ear much more easily. That placement is really critical. So if you can keep working with your team to make sure we do that well, that helps the retention, and we can make sure that your guys are getting the best that they can out of the product we give them. The other problem we're starting to see a little bit is the actual application part where you put the tag, the male tag on the pin, and you don't put it on all the way. The head of that pin where the metal is actually supported by that metal pin. And if it's a little bit of an air gap there, as we get the pressure when it goes through the ear, that head of the tag right here bends over. And so then you just get the pin of the applicator going through. You may actually apply the tag, but you've got a broken male head sitting in there that you can't see, because once that male goes into the female part of the tag, you can't see it anymore. But if you don't have it properly seated, it's already broken when you put it in. So we have to make sure that we're doing that properly. We've also seen issues with damaged pins that break, the tip comes off. If it's, again, not the full length, you're not going to be supporting the head of that male tag. You'll have that breakage. Again, you won't see it until it falls out, and then we'll realize that you had a breakage problem from the point of application. The last thing is just really working and looking for those things, kind of an odd thing to say. Look at it from the standpoint of an ear tag. What are your biggest enemies out there? It's sharp corners, it's wire that's out there, it's things in bales. If we can minimize those, we've found that we can minimize some of the retention losses at the farm as well. So as much as possible, work with us. When we have failures, let Holstein know, call us. We have 15 people out in the field. We will deploy them immediately out to the farm to see what's going on and try to make sure that we're addressing the issues that are causing these problems. We think from a technology standpoint, we're really pushing that to where it needs to be. But again, as a partner, we want to make sure we're working together to address every single issue of every single member, because we want to maintain that privileged position of being your partner of choice It's something we take very seriously. We want to make sure that we continue to work together to improve that going forward. A pivot to another quick topic. It is something that has happened 3 times in my career. I'm hoping third time is a charm. A lot of discussion about national ID, mandatory ID out in the marketplace today. It's heating up again. And so where we are, USDA through the ADT, the Animal Disease Traceability Program, has announced that they are going to try to move to a national mandatory ID program functioning with electronic ID. So it's not going to be bangs tags, it's not going to be visual tags. The official tag is going to be an electronic ID tag, and they're targeting 2023 as the effective date for the implementation of this national mandatory ID program. They're going to start doing some incremental steps to move towards that, and you'll start seeing that as soon as the end of this year. The bangs tags program, those metal tags programs that USDA has used over the last few years, they're going to sunset the use at the December 31st, 2019 of the metal tags, and on January 1st, 2020, they're going to pivot their programs exclusively to electronic ID. It's one of those first steps for them to move to this full use of electronic systems at auction facilities, at packing plants, at feed yards, and getting the market more and more ready for a full electronic ID national system in 2023. This is the goal of USDA, but it's not a rule. It's not something that they want to do as a full imposition on the industry. They don't want to force it. They want the industry to adopt it. So they're doing these small transitions. They're going to be subsidizing infrastructure. They're going to be working with people to try to make the most of the electronic ID to create value, something your association has done probably for the last 20 years. The rest of the industry is going to have to catch up now. There's also a lot of push for industry-driven input on this initiative. There's a group called the Cattle Traceability Working Group. It was put together a little bit over a year ago. Holstein and Allflex, as you would expect, are at the table. We're contributing, and we've been driving factors in trying to move this forward. Holstein probably has the greatest credibility of any group at that table, and I try to make sure everybody realizes that people like John and Jody have the scars of arrows in their back of being leaders on this topic over decades. The beef industry is starting to get it, and they understand it's time. We're not going to maintain our exports, although exports aren't the panacea to everything. But on the beef side, if they don't have traceability, they are not going to maintain their export markets. The China thing is hanging by a thread because China demands traceability from Chinese producers, and they have a national program and we don't. Mexico has a national program. Canada has a national program. Uruguay has a national program. We don't. And we're getting behind the 8 ball. If it wasn't for the fact that we're doing all these things in genomics and making our product better, we wouldn't have markets. But that attitude that we have the greatest and will always have the greatest product, we got to realize the rest of the world is catching up. And if we don't do the things we have to do, we're going to lose those export markets. And I'm really talking about the beef side of the business right now. This program is going to help us address that. So we have a lot of continuing work going on. This cattle traceability work is ongoing. It's a weekly commitment to have these different meetings and move this forward. There's a conference coming up with the National Institute of Animal Agriculture. They have a full day traceability where USDA is going to come in and do a mock traceback to show people how the system will work in an electronic system in a matter of minutes compared to the months and months. And they've dealt with this in different parts of the market. Ohio's going through this, North Dakota's going through this, where they have animals that are showing up with disease and they can't trace it back because they can't read the metal tags and they can't have access to records through auctions and different points of concentration to know where animals have been. So we've got a real imperative to move this forward. Your association's done a great job. You guys were ready for 2023 somewhere in the mid-90s. And we've always stayed on top. We've worked together to make sure that you guys were on the cutting edge, hopefully not the bleeding edge, but the cutting edge of technology that's going to make this traceability work and work across our industry. So thank you guys for your leadership, for what you guys have done. You guys are the epitome of not only taking that traceability and making it work from a traceability, but now making it work on farms so it's creating value. So we talk to beef producers and they all say, hey, this is a cost. It's like, why don't you go check on what Holstein's doing? It's a value. And once you understand that you can make use of this technology on farm, it's no longer a $2 cost, it's an investment in your future. So again, thanks for your leadership on that, and hopefully we'll get this one across the finish line this time. For us, it is that partnership that gives me the greatest pride in the work I've done at Allflex for the last 35 years. We've got to touch a lot of different parts of your organization. Obviously, the tag supply is an important thing, but working with the young dairy leaders, having a chance to do some work on different areas of your foundation, it's been a joy. Your people are the best to work with. You guys, I know you know how great the people in Brattleboro are, but for those of us that deal with them day to day, they are the best. So we thank them very much for everything they allow us to do. Hope it's a relationship that I can continue through my career and make that part of my legacy to pass on to my successors at Allflex. But again, thanks very much for allowing us to be part of your system, and hopefully we can continue to improve it as we go forward.
I'm just going to give you a brief update on a couple of tag ID procedures. I believe we're going to be addressing Hank's concern right now and kind of show kind of how it's been actually addressed previously. Covering the resolutions that were presented at the 2018 National Convention. First, in regard to the acceptance of blank 840 RFIDs for registration and the other, the utilization of tags purchased from other vendors. Although we would recommend that customers use tags that have a herd management number assigned, we do realize that some customers have and are utilizing blank 840 RFID tags in their operation. We define blank 840 RFIDs as RFID tags without a corresponding herd management number printed on them. Blank 840 tags can be used for registration with the following. A herd management number would need to be assigned with the registry application or on the easy file. We have been accepting blank 840 tags previously. However, we were requiring 2 additional tags be applied. The recent change accepts the blank 840 tag now as an acceptable form of ID and reduces the number of tags to meet the 2 tag requirement for registration to just the 1 additional. The second procedural change addresses the use of tags purchased from other vendors. We currently accept tags from other vendors as long as they meet our basic registry requirements. Tags may be Allflex tags or tags from other manufacturers. Verification of the 840 numbers is still required because when 840 numbers are incorrectly entered for an animal, registry, genomic, and DHI production data is compromised. In effort to simplify the process, we've created an online form for customers to fill out and provide that information to Holstein USA. The tag verification form is also available as a PDF or Word document that can be emailed to the association. The previous verification process required information being submitted directly from the manufacturer or the customer providing photographic proof of 840s. In many cases, this resulted in having to catch animals that had already, and taking pictures of animals that already had tags put in. Information required to complete the verification form includes basic account details such as account number, name, address, and premise ID, the tag series, so essentially the 840 numbers that we're needing to verify, and herd management numbers if they are not blank 840s, as well as tag detail, so the number of tags, the size of the tags, and then also confirmation if they are in fact tamper-proof. In place of the verification form, we still will continue to accept CSV files that are emailed direct from manufacturers. So in conclusion, tags are a vital part of Holstein USA's business. We believe that Allflex is the leader in animal identification and that we are offering our customers a premium product. For those members experiencing tag retention issues, please contact me directly so that we can try to identify the problem and suggest some solutions.